Okay, Orlando Wilson here. In this video I want to answer a question somebody asked me reference equipment for close protection services. What do you need? And this gentleman was on about buying bulletproof vests and accessing firearms, etc., etc. Buying a firearm overseas and leaving it with somebody, usual BS, because they can't have firearms in his home country. If you're working armed, if you're working in a country where you can work armed legally, most countries will have specific rules on what type of firearms you can carry, what weapons you can carry, be it impact weapons, etc. So I'm not going to talk too much about weapons in this video. I think I got a other video up about that. You have to work to the guidelines, the licensing guidelines of the country you're in. I'll leave it there. To go with the weapons, yes, you need your cleaning kits, your magazines, concealable holsters, not competition holsters, etc. So you need to me, as long as you got a decent firearm, a decent holster, a couple of spare magazines, you're good to go. That's it. And ammunition, cleaning kit, etc. But I'm not going to get into that on this video. In addition to weapons, bulletproof vests, stab-proof vests. If you're working in some countries, a stab-proof vest is more applicable than a bulletproof vest. I mean, I don't own one. I've never owned one. I've worn them a few times, where I remember wearing one a long time ago. It was too hot, it was too heavy, so it got binned pretty quickly. Depends where you are, it depends what you're doing. If to wear a body armor every day, it's a pain in the ass, so I would generally say, unless you're a doorman, unless you're a bouncer, unless you're dealing with in close proximity with crowds where you can be stabbed, shot, etc., I wouldn't waste the money on bulletproof vests. And the other thing, traveling internationally, in some places they are restricted. You turn up in some countries with a bulletproof vest, you're going to have problems. Bulletproof, stab-proof. If I was buying a vest these days, I know people that are selling, I would go for a dual bulletproof, stab-proof vest, because in a lot of places you're more likely to get shanked than you are to get shot. So I would say the main equipment these days that you need is a decent smartphone. You should be able to, as long as you know what you're doing, you should be able to work from a smartphone. And I've had people say, again, about radios, communications. I'll do another video about that later. As far as communications are concerned, work from your smartphone, work from encrypted apps, etc. Change the apps around that you're using every day. You can mix it up. Your phone's got all your navigation stuff. The phone, you can organize all your jobs on it. Most smartphones these days are as powerful as a lot of computers. So you can run your whole business from your smartphone. I mean, sometimes I'm traveling for a month, a couple of months, and I'm just working off my phones. I carry two phones. Why? Because if one breaks, I still have another phone with all my contacts in it, etc. And again, if one phone breaks, I can just bounce onto the other one without having to go look for a phone, buy a phone, install apps, and install contacts and everything else. So I would say, buy two phones, two decent phones, get two numbers. In some places, if you can, get two different networks, because if one network fails, you should still have another network up. And I remember I was in Haiti after the earthquake the next day, and there the main provider, cell phone provider, was down, and one of the backups, one of the smaller providers, was actually working. So after that, a lot of the guys there, instead of going with the main provider, changed over to the other provider, or that's when phones were coming out with dual SIM cards. Got two numbers, one for each network provider. So again, to me these days, you need a good, at least, or I would say, get two smartphones, two different numbers, two different providers, and learn how to use the phone and learn how to use the apps. Again, you must use the VPNs on your phone. Make sure the phone's secure. Make sure you don't leave it hanging around. Make sure it's not outside of you're not leaving it unattended, etc. Make sure there's security on their phone, because if you got everything on your phone, it gets hacked, it gets stolen, then you got problems. But phone security. I might do a video about that in the future. Phone security is very important these days. But I'd say that's all you need: 2 decent smartphones and a good brain. I'm all for the saying, the more you know, the less you need. One thing I do use, and it's in my business, and these things are applicable to the close protection business, especially protective surveillance, is covert cameras. And I might do a video again, other videos to do in the future. Decent covert cameras can be worth their weight in gold. The trouble is, these days is finding decent ones that work reliably. That's the main equipment, specialist equipment I use these days. I got cameras in various objects. I also carry listening devices, not so much audio recorders, which again, for my business, for what I'm doing, a lot of the times they're very, very handy. And these days you can pick that stuff up pretty cheap, even on Amazon, and they work okay. But the main thing, specialist, that I buy these days, and I would recommend if you're in the serious close protection business, investigations business, is covert cameras. And again, cameras, they're out there in various objects, be it hard drives, thumb drives, etc., etc. They can be very, very handy. And I generally got one of those with me, at least one of those with me when I'm traveling. If you're doing anything, the issue is with a lot of those cameras, they're cheap, they're cheerful, and they're not 100% reliable. So whenever I'm using them for anything serious, they're generally backed up with at least one more camera, and usually audio. But to me, that's all you need. There's no need for radios, not really radios you can work off your phone, etc. Bug detectors, etc. A lot of those, I've got videos up about that. A lot of those don't work. You're better off doing a physical search of a location if you're worried about being bugged or changing locations. So that's it. I would say keep it simple, get a decent phone, learn how to use it. If you're in a place where you can carry weapons, work to the legal requirements. But I would say look into, again, especially for protective surveillance and surveillance, covert cameras. It's a very interesting part of the business, which is developing very quickly. It's just finding reliable cameras that actually will work and record. Okay, that's it. That's my opinions on equipment. So follow me along on social media. I'm up on LinkedIn. I prefer LinkedIn at the moment. Follow the Risk Inc. page up on LinkedIn. I also have an array of books up on Amazon. We are up on the other usual social media platforms. So follow us along, because we've got a load of videos up. There's a load of content up. I'm changing the websites around at the moment. We're not providing courses. We should be scheduling courses for the next few months. We've been delaying due to work and other commitments, but we should be getting the courses going again within the next 6 months. So for updates on that, again, follow us along on social media. Again, if you have any questions and you're connected with me, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer relevant questions. But in the meantime, be good, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and don't go wasting your money on equipment you're never going to use. I've seen people buy a ton of tactical gear and they live in countries where they can't even work armed. So I take it they just like to get dressed up and look at themselves in the mirror, dressed up in their tactical gear, and pretend they're playing SWAT cop somewhere, right? Be good, stay safe, stay out of trouble.